Google reportedly has over 100 agencies monitoring extremist content. Well, our next guest fell victim to the monitoring by YouTube, which is owned by Google, after blocking his video in over 24 countries with no explanation why they did it. The video in question was how he felt about being called a white supremacist. YouTube has since lifted the ban after pushback on social media. So why the ban at all? Well, here now is psychology professor at the University of Toronto, author of 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Great to see you again, Dr. Peterson.
Very nice to be here.
So tell us what happened with this video on YouTube.
Well, I was speaking with a very well-known YouTube host, H3H3. It's Ethan Klein, and we talked about a lot of different things because YouTube interviews are 3 hours long. And he cut a piece of it where we discussed accusations that had been leveled at me for being alt-right and far-right and white supremacist, ridiculous allegations, and put that video up, and it was banned in 24 countries. Now, maybe it was banned because it had the words white supremacist in it, but that's actually quite a problem because perhaps you want discussion of that. So that seems to be what happened. He complained, and they backed down. But, you know, he's got clout because he has 4 million YouTube subscribers, something like that. Yeah.
Are you a white supremacist?
No.
Why do they call you that?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because in the world we live in right now, if you stand in opposition to the radical left, which I certainly do, then the easiest strategic move for the radical left people is to call you some pejorative term so they don't have to deal with you. Yes, well, not just to shut you down, but also to damage your reputation, to cause real harm. It's not merely a matter of shutting you down. There's more malevolence to it than that.
They want to take you out and they want to silence you.
Yeah, and they'd be just as fine, just as good if there was some pain involved during it.
Right. Do you how do you feel about some of the blowback that's leveled at you? How do you handle it?
Well, I've learned over the last year if you're careful what you say to begin with, and I am very careful with what I say, and then if you're attacked, that you don't back down and you don't apologize, things flip around extremely quickly. And now I'm in a position where if I get attacked, it almost inevitably, fingers crossed, turns out to be of benefit to me.
Ultimately, though, the reason we're talking to you about this is apparently that Google has got this secret police of 100 agencies, and we don't know exactly who they are, and they don't identify themselves, and they're trying to filter out content.
Right.
What bothers you most about that?
Well, I understand why they have to do it to some degree, because they don't want ISIS promoting their particular brand of pathology.
And that's a good thing to take down terrorist video.
It's certainly something that has to be contended with. I think that it's necessary for Google and YouTube and these large social media channels to make what they're doing absolutely transparent to the public. And there's two reasons for that. It's not only because of the human decisions that are involved, it's because they're building algorithms to screen things even before they're put up.
Right.
And that's resulted in
I would understand if they are, excuse me for cutting you off.
No problem.
I understand if it's the ISIS video or if you're a white supremacist and you're lashing out and saying you're going to have hate crimes and this. That's putting other lives in danger. We need to take down those videos and get involved, I believe, and police needs to get involved. But what you did, it was a speech, and they just took a clip, and you're defending yourself why you're not a white supremacist, correct? And
yes,
they took
that's
that
what
video
happened.
down.
Yeah, well,
What's
it shows you that
it
shows you that the algorithms are faulty. But I know lots of people on YouTube have been demonetized. That just happens all the time. If you're a conservative, center conservative, I would say, then the probability that if you have a discussion that it's going to be demonetized is extremely high. And major league players on YouTube, like Dave Rubin, for example, are demonetized constantly.
What does that mean, demonetized?
It means that Google decides that their content is not fit for advertisers. And they seem to do that, I would say, in a very arbitrary way. Now, the issue is that this needs to be made public. We need to evolve mechanisms to determine how shared social media are going to be screened so the real pathological material remains under control, the stuff that violates law. But we need, it can't be done behind closed doors.
And look out for Facebook, too. They're right behind. They're trying to correct what they say went wrong in 2016, and many people think that's Donald Trump winning.
Right.
I want to talk about your book, new 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. What do you mean? You're fighting against chaos in our society?
Yeah, well, it's increasingly young people in particular find themselves disoriented in our world. It isn't clear to them how it is that they should grow up and take their place in the world. And I would say that's especially true for young men. And so the book is a a series of rules, some tongue-in-cheek, some dead serious, and a description of why it's a description of why most of the meaning that's found in a genuine life is to be found as a consequence of adopting responsibility, and also it's a discussion of why it's so necessary to be careful and to tell the truth in a deep way, and it's an explanation of that, not just an injunction or a finger wagging.
Can you tell us one rule?
Put your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. So, and that's an antidote, I would say, to some degree, to this idea that's been fed to young people that the best thing they can do in the world is to become a social activist of some sort and complain about what other people are doing to hurt the world instead of growing up and fixing things on their own, which is a much better pathway.
Don't be afraid to listen to people, right? They have counter views. People want to shut you down rather than debate you. You want the debate.
That's rule 9.
They say you're dangerous. Are you dangerous?
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Why? Why are you dangerous? Don't look dangerous.
It depends on when you see me, I think. Why? Because I think that someone who's trying to be good should be dangerous. Like, otherwise there's no force to you. There's nothing to contend with. You know, we have this strange idea that's especially, again, foisted on young men, that the pathway to virtue is through weakness and harmlessness. And that's just simply not true. That's the pathway to uselessness and resentment. You should be able to be a monster and then not be one.
C.S. Lewis said there are different definitions of love. There are clearly different definitions of danger, too.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for the
Congratulations
invitation.
on the book.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
James Damore learned the hard way what happens when you question the groupthink of Silicon Valley. While working at Google, the world's most powerful company, Damore privately circulated a paper questioning his employer's diversity policies. He didn't attack anyone. He just questioned the internal logic of what he was being told. For that, the company vilified him and his character and then fired him. Now, Damore and another ex-Google employee, David Guterman, are suing that company. They're accusing Google of systemic bias against white employees, men, and conservatives. Their 161-page lawsuit exposes a remarkable and terrifying climate at Google, a place where biased, hateful, and even violent political rhetoric is totally acceptable, just as long as it's directed against the right targets. The suit contains documents that shows Googlers openly maintain, for example, politically motivated employee blacklists. Here's one. In 2015, Google manager Paul Cowan wrote the following on Google's internal networks for all employees to see. If you express a dunderheaded opinion about religion, about politics, or about social justice, it turns out I'm allowed to think you're a halfwit. I'm perfectly within my rights to mentally categorize you in my D-head box. Yes, I maintain mentally, but not yet publicly, a blacklist. If I had to work with people on this list, I would refuse and try to get them removed. Well, the blacklists were real and not just internal. They also applied to conservative figures from outside the company. Blogger Curtis Yarvin, known online as Mencius Moldbug, once visited Google to have lunch with an employee. According to the suit, Yarvin's arrival triggered a silent alarm at Google. Security arrived to escort him off campus. His mere presence was considered unacceptable. According to the lawsuit, Google employees were awarded with bonuses by the company for publicly denouncing Damore's memo. In April of 2017, Google manager Chris Bissell advised employees if they spoke at conferences, they should do so only while demanding that white males from other companies be kicked off panels in favor of women or non-white employees. Quote, "You'll feel pretty damn smug about doing it," Bissell said. Google HR said Bissell's attacks on the basis of race and gender somehow broke no company rules. And that's just scratching the surface of what Damore has brought to light. The suit has more than 100 examples of employees and managers saying conservatives or Trump supporters ought to be fired, defending political violence, implementing quota systems to discriminate against white people and men to the benefit of other favored groups. It's intense, it's appalling, but don't kid yourself. It's not just happening at Google. Last night, Dennis Finley, who was an editor at the Burlington Free Press, was fired by the media giant Gannett because he dared to just question a proposal that would add a third gender option to driver's licenses in Vermont. Now, if you're conservative, it might be difficult to get your head around what is happening in this country. So much has changed. But here's the bottom line. The federal government is no longer the main threat to your privacy and to your freedoms. You've grown up thinking that. It's no longer true. Big corporations are the main threat to your freedom and your privacy. The The government doesn't own your private emails. Google does. Federal employees can't be fired for their political views. Private sector employees are all the time. The Trump administration can't end your ability to publicly communicate your ideas. Twitter and Facebook can do that, and they do it all the time. The Orwellian future is increasingly the Orwellian present, and tech barons are becoming our new commissars. Liberals who once admirably stood up for free expression and in opposition to concentrations of corporate power have been thoroughly co-opted. They're getting rich from it. James Damore has seen it all from the inside firsthand. He joins us now with his lawyer, Harmeet Dillon. Welcome to you both.
Happy to be here.
So, James, in reading these documents, what's so striking is not just that you got fired for expressing your views, and I want to restate, having read the piece that got you fired, you weren't attacking anybody, but you were raising questions. You got fired for that. But Google seemed to feel the need to vilify you after you got fired, to discredit you, to attack your character, and to encourage others to do the same. That seems Stalinist. Why did they feel the need to do that, do you think?
Because I attacked their orthodoxy, and they really need to send a message to other employees that, no, you can't do this. You can't question our policies.
Yeah, well, they certainly did, paying bonuses to people who denounced you, like a Khmer Rouge re-education session. So, Harmeet, in this complaint, you have example after example of Google targeting people on the basis of their race and their sex. My impression was that was illegal. Is it?
It is illegal. It's illegal under federal law. It's illegal under California law. And what a lot of lawyers even around the country don't understand, that under California law, we have a unique labor code provision that makes it illegal to discriminate against somebody on the basis of their political activities or their political views. So that is among the claims in our lawsuit. And that can actually affect a lot, and it has affected women at Google. So to be clear, our lawsuit actually includes women as well if they've been discriminated against on the basis of any of these protected characteristics.
But I mean, Google is, is the most powerful company in the world, the most famous company in the world, and they're doing this openly. I mean, on internal servers, they don't seem to have worried they were going to get in trouble for violating a pretty basic law. Why?
Well, so they're a $700 billion plus company. They are ubiquitous. They have virtual monopoly power over search engines, and they've been getting away with it for a long time. Now, probably you and I and some other conservatives have been alarmed about what we've read about Google being able to scan Gmail and keep all of your data. That's what's really troubling about this. They, at one time, know everything about you. And at the other hand, they're using that information against you. We've seen them do this in their commercial practices as well. The demonetization of viewpoints they don't believe in on YouTube and other places. And I'm hearing from people inside the company and people who've left the company that their artificial intelligence programs for search engines similarly are applying political biases and filters. And you and I wouldn't even know it. And eventually we're going to find that they're controlling what people think. They are. Obviously inside the company, they're getting away with punishing people and controlling what people think. And, people don't understand that on Silicon Valley, they have these campuses. And you come to the campus in the morning, they take care of your dry cleaning, all of your meals, entertainment, everything. And so people are in this little bubble. It's like the brave new world of Silicon Valley.
And that's fine, but the fact that they're controlling our political dialogue and the way people experience reality, and Congress just sits there passively as if they have no authority, is contemptible. So, James, I would encourage, by the way, our viewers to go online and read what you wrote, because it's hardly radical, it's sensible and smart. Do you think that being at odds with Google is going to affect your future employment prospects?
Yes, definitely. And many employees have made it clear that they're spreading the message about not only me, but anyone that they've discovered that has certain viewpoints, to blackball them out of careers within Silicon Valley.
So why is that not terrifying?
Oh, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, for every James Damore who got fired, Tucker, there are many people inside the company who we represent who are afraid to even raise their hand and say this is happening to me, because the threat is not just of a blacklist within Google, but of a blacklist within the entire tech community throughout the United States. That's how scary this is. If
you're a conservative and you grew up thinking that the federal bureaucracy was the greatest threat to you, it takes a while to realize, no, it's not actually. It's Google, and they have more power. And I just Godspeed to you both, and we really wish you well and we'll be following this case. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you.